Hey, neighbor.
Are you?
Jake from State Farm.
Oh, you hang out here, bro?
Yeah, hey, right next to the course in your neighborhood.
Hey, that's dope, fam.
Hey, speaking of being a good neighbor, I'd like to welcome you to the city. As a show of my support, I'd like to offer you my official look. Can't join Team State Farm without the drip, right?
You can't keep getting away with it!
I would say it's difficult to take this franchise seriously at this point, but even 2K Games just knows it's a joke. One that's profitable though. But anyway, the kids most definitely love them. Some State Farm ads and a full price game that features an exploitative unregulated casino, says the 2K executives, I guess. The kids and families also seem to want, or well, are getting The Witcher from Netflix. Things are weird right now. Lately though, I have been quiet somewhat these past few months as I've been settling into my new home and dealing with annoying shipping delays and annoying time-consuming projects like putting a giant gazebo together with parts missing. Regardless, I'm back. Last video seemed to do very well and I'm planning more videos like that soon, but over the course of the last few weeks and months, there's been some very eye-opening pieces of gaming news, such as Assassin's Creed doubling down on the live service shenanigans with AC Infinity, which will be an online platform that evolves over time like Destiny 2. Oh yay. Ultimately, this AAA industry is all about recurrent consumer spending, and being able to have players sticking to one game for a decade while spending boatloads of money is far easier and cheaper than releasing a new title every other year, which has to have a new story, new animations, new mechanics, and the list goes on and on. Although to be fair, it seems if you play one Ubisoft open world game, you've pretty much played them all, and that is a pretty significant problem, something that we're seeing again with Far Cry 6. But Ubisoft has been very loud about their very not so exciting future plans for all of their franchises, which is less games and more monetization. The Tom Clancy estate continues to roll in cash as Ubisoft uses the book writer's name like a used blow-up doll. Tom Clancy's X Defiant was announced this summer, a free-to-play clone of Call of Duty developed by a former Call of Duty executive. If you wanted to play Black Ops 4 but with Ubisoft as the publisher and the Tom Clancy name slapped on, well, that opportunity approaches, but as one door opens, another door closes, as Tom Clancy's Elite Squad was shut down. The free-to-play mobile action RPG did not survive 1 year. Just announced the other day was Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Frontline, which is Ubisoft's latest attempt at Battle Royale. You know what they say, if it doesn't work the first time, keep throwing shit at the wall until it eventually sticks. Being serious, don't worry though, because Tom Clancy's Dildo Riders and Tom Clancy's Glory Hole will all release before Ubisoft makes a new proper bloody Splinter Cell game. Or it'll probably be Splinter Cell Battle Royale. Oh god, I don't want to give them ideas. Saints Row is coming back, and as is the case with what seems like a lot of the revival of beloved franchises, the developers have made some controversial changes. And when I say that, I mean the franchise seems to be intimidating the lousy Watchdog games. Of course, I'm reserving judgment until more is shown, but coming out with a cringy cinematic trailer did not go over well, especially with changes made to the game's humor, which developer Volition seems to think is out of date now. If that is truly the case, I really think the devs don't have a great understanding of the identity of their own franchise, and it definitely has me nervous about this reboot, which is again not going over well with many. One of the themes of 2021 have been delays, and over the last few weeks and months, we've seen even more of that, with Horizon Forbidden West and Dying Light 2 being delayed to early 2022, Halo Infinite delaying core features such as Forge mode to sometime next year, Battlefield 2042 getting a 1-month delay, maybe it needs more at this point based on that beta, and even CDPR has made remarks which indicates that Cyberpunk 2077's next-gen update will not be ready for this year as originally planned. The pandemic continues to play game development timelines, which does make me question if a game like Starfield will be ready for its holiday 2022 release. Ghost of Tsushima's Iki Island expansion has been a ton of fun, Deathloop was pretty solid arcane fun, Battlefield 2042's beta is just buggy but fun, and Call of Duty Vanguard's alpha was enough for me to know this game is not very good and an easy pass. Just wanted to acknowledge some of the gameplay in the background of this video. What likely will bring a tear to the eyes of the former developers of Visceral Games, Dead Space is coming back with a remake, and EA Motive provided a very early look at it recently. Not much really to say about this project yet, but it's truly a shame and a bit of a slap in the face to the developers of the now defunct Visceral, as EA somehow only realized with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order that people still like and enjoy single-player games. So about 4 years after shutting down Visceral, their best-known creation is being brought back to life by somebody else. If only EA was not so fucking incompetent, which is why I'm still nervous about anything coming from them. Even this fall's Battlefield 2042, I'm holding out hope they do not ruin that. I will say, so far everything I've seen and played with this year's Battlefield looks great, but again, this is EA. Also, as I mentioned before, that beta was in very rough shape. Lots of clipping, FPS drops, and lag and other problems. Hopefully this is an older build like one developer said, because if not, then a delay to early 2022 should be considered. I understand the franchise's history, but Battlefield 2042 just seems to be a different story, and this game really deserves a good launch because it's solid fun, even despite some of the questionable design decisions made by DICE, but we'll save that topic for another day. Since I have had the opportunity to play all three of these big shooters that are supposed to release before the end of the year, I just want to make a point that Halo Infinite's multiplayer brings me back to the glory days of Halo 2 and 3 when I was a kid. I just hope the campaign is as good as 343 has done with the multiplayer so far. Battlefield 2042 is just pure chaos. Absolutely love it, except for the bugs. And Call of Duty Vanguard, we're just going to ignore that bland piece of toast. And a move that does have me excited, especially after I just got done revisiting the original trilogy, Mass Effect 5 or 4, whatever the next Mass Effect game, may be making the switch from the Frostbite engine back to the Unreal engine, which if true, that would be music to my ears. As from everyone who has spoken about working with Frostbite, they've all described the engine as a literal painful disaster. And related Bioware news, Dragon Age's next entry is reportedly coming in 2023. This will be the next opportunity for Bioware to prove themselves, as they are shell of themselves. In the last few years, well over 100 senior and lead developers have departed following the chaotic developments and flops of both Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem. However, this year's remaster of the original trilogy has been a big success, something I actually really enjoyed, but there still remains questions on if new Bioware can deliver with their upcoming games. It's one thing to touch up games from their glory days, it's another to deliver a well-written, fun gaming experience. Game Rant recently advocated for a rather interesting protest for Far Cry 6, one that makes absolutely no sense, but it's comical, I'll give them that. The gaming outlet wants players to protest Ubisoft's long history of misconduct, which came to light starting last year, by having people purchase Far Cry 6 and only play as the female protagonist. They believe this is a better alternative to not giving Ubisoft your money, and all I'll say is 95% of those purchasing Far Cry 6 and likely 2/3 of those who will play as a male character probably have no idea about Ubisoft's misconduct or just don't care. The protest is meaningless. Blizzard developers demanded action from management for widespread misconduct that had been happening at the company for well over a decade, and thus far, the company's response has been kinda hilarious but not surprising. J. Allen Brack was shown the exit door, Blizzard's head of HR and chief legal officer is also gone, the executive producer of Overwatch 2 has departed, the one that was supposed to play an integral role in the future of this franchise after Jeff Kaplan left the company. 3 more high-level Blizzard employees who faced accusations are gone, including the game director of Diablo 4. We are witnessing some firings, but it also is obvious many are leaving because of the nightmare that Blizzard has turned into. Even before this California lawsuit, we were seeing high-profile departures every few weeks. Now though, this appears to have been the straw that broke the camel's back, and one really does have to wonder, with all of this creative turnover, how games like Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 will be impacted, because I do have concerns. With the firings and departures, what we've also seen is the Activision side asserting control, with a longtime Activision executive given a leadership role over Blizzard. Within their games, Blizzard has made the choice to rename characters, remove flirt lines and jokes, and make in-game paintings of women to be less revealing. Phenomenal job there, guys, because that'll definitely do absolutely nothing. Last month, Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick boldly claimed our work environment everywhere we operate will not permit discrimination, harassment, or unequal treatment. We will be the company that sets the example for this in our industry. Can't say that with a straight face. As the company sits in the back shredding alleged evidence and reportedly intimidating employees. If you actually believe this slimeball of a company cares about taking responsibility, then I have a $2 million NFT of Donald Duck's balls to sell you. Anyway, almost everything Activision has been saying lately has been nonsensical, whether that be the company executive who deleted her Twitter account when she tweeted an article shaming whistleblowers and got eviscerated for it, or the so-called creative decision to omit the Activision name from COD Vanguard's intro. But quickly soon after, players discover that, not surprisingly, Activision scrubbed their name just beforehand and accidentally left the evidence behind showing they did that. Great job again, guys. So much responsibilitying. So much so, the feds have jumped in, launched a few different investigations, with one being immediately settled for $18 million, although that may end up going sideways based on an objection that was made by the state of California. And then there's also another lawsuit that is going to have Bobby Boy being subpoenaed. This mess is just far from over. And for Blizzard, they had a game launch recently, that being Diablo 2 Resurrected, which has been thus far, well, at least it started off messy with server issues and player characters just randomly vanishing. And a number of weeks after launch, it looks like those issues are still happening. Many players are very, very upset at Blizzard, and the reasoning for these issues is not going down well. For what it's worth, on the Activision side, recently Call of Duty went to war against cheaters, releasing a strong statement saying that they were going to really be going after them, and then less than 48 hours later, their new anti-cheat leaked, so that went as well as expected. Since this massive explosion and chaos surrounding Blizzard's work environment, one company has been taking indirect shots at them while taking steps to improve their own workspace, that being Bungie, a company that at one point had a very big relationship with Activision Blizzard that very publicly broke down over time, eventually leading to a split. When the disturbing California lawsuit against Activision Blizzard first came to light, one of the few companies that released a statement and took indirect shots at their former partner by leading by example was Bungie, who stated on Twitter that they had a responsibility to acknowledge, reflect, and do what we can to push back on a persistent culture of harassment, abuse, and inequality that exists in our industry. More recently, Bungie continued this with their CEO saying in a blog post, "These past few months have been a sobering reminder for all of us as we hear and listen to the multitude of stories highlighting how good people across our industry have been mistreated." And he continued presenting multiple efforts the company is undertaking to produce a better work environment at Bungie, and firmly stated that, "I'm hoping that by being honest and transparent and by having this conversation with you and other development studios and publishers out in the open, we can come together and collectively make this a better experience for everyone who chooses to contribute their talents to this industry. That other leadership teams may see and acknowledge that this isn't just a challenge for us to collectively confront, but an opportunity to learn and grow. While this is a difficult and challenging conversation, our industry needs to welcome it and see it for the opportunity that it is. We can do better, and not just to root out bad actors, but to examine our biases, our systems, and how we equip our people with the tools and teams that they can trust to support them as they craft worlds and stories that inspire millions of people." Meanwhile, as Activision Blizzard settles its first federal lawsuit, maybe, over their misconduct, CEO Bobby Kotick said that, quote-unquote, "I remain unwavering in my commitment to make Activision Blizzard one of the world's most inclusive, respected, and respectful workplace." This guy, I can't say any of this with a straight face, and I don't even think he's saying this, probably a publicist. And again, I just have to say that I point my finger directly to some of the company's recent actions, which speak a much different story. They're not going to be getting better. This is just how Activision Blizzard will always be. Kotick's history is also rather interesting, and why I think measures that companies like Bungie are undertaking is great and all, but very unlikely to create systemic change, especially since the only thing Kotick cares about is dollar bills and occasional mass layoffs and record-breaking quarters. Now, maybe some of the biggest gaming news to come this year happened just recently, rivaling Blue Box Game Studios, who throughout this summer played with fire and made people believe they were working on PT but instead delivered PP. Being a little bit more serious, for those heartbroken over that debacle and just wanting a new Silent Hill, Gamatsu, a Japanese gaming outlet, very reputable, is reporting that Kojima is working on a new Silent Hill game funded by Sony. So the future might indeed be bright for this franchise, and for those who have waited patiently. It also appears that Konami is opening up their franchises further, with other gaming outlets reporting that Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid are additionally being revived with new installments and remakes of older games. It's a great decision by Konami to license their games out, especially after just the recent things that have happened with them, especially their sports games, which, my god, looks awful. Something that recently sparked a lot of attention, an NVIDIA GeForce database leak revealed many potential upcoming games, including the GTA Trilogy Remaster, we'll talk a bit more about that later, Crysis 4, Kingdom Hearts 4, God of War PC port, and many more, including placeholders and canceled projects. Whoever allowed this leak to happen probably getting fired. Within the leak, there was also mention to a Titanfall 3, which immediately got fans' hopes up, but it quickly became clear that this was just an internal reference to Apex Legends, not a new Titanfall game, something that Respawn has pretty much confirmed is the case by saying a new game is not happening, at least right now. It's important to remember that Titanfall 2, a well-reviewed game, did poorly due to the incompetence of EA, who thought it was a brilliant idea to relaunch the game right in between Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and their very own Battlefield 1 in the holiday season of 2016. Titanfall Battlefield 2 deserved better and I think was always doomed. Here in present day, hopefully the recent Respawn success of Jedi Fallen Order and Apex Legends will allow for a Titanfall 3. Let's just hope EA learns a lesson and launches that game far away from an established franchise like Call of Duty, which no matter what seems to sell every single year. And in unrelated, very surprisingly, gaming insider Tom Henderson reported that for the last 18 months, Quantic Dreams, the studio behind award-winning titles such as Detroit Become Human and Heavy Rain, has been working on an unnamed Star Wars game. Definitely an interesting combo of David Cage and Star Wars, but it sounds like this game is still very early in production, and based on some fresh reports, it appears this game may feature multiplayer and open world and traditional action gameplay. So certainly nothing we've ever seen from Quantic Dreams, which has a reputation as the QuickTime event developer. Now, another gaming figure broke some news as Randy Pitchford, the Magic Man of Gearbox Software, appears to be stepping down, at least creatively, away from the game development side of the business as he focuses on the movie and TV side of Gearbox. Truly an end of an era, and as one Twitter user said, we all look forward to seeing where his flash drives wind up next. Anyway, what also happened recently was a very controversial PlayStation 5 showcase. Well, that happened last month, with many upset at Rockstar Games, Sony Santa Monica, and the upcoming KOTOR remake for a number of reasons. But before we dive into that, consider subscribing, follow me on Twitter, leave a like or dislike, and if you really like the content, check out my Patreon and support the channel. Nonetheless, the announcement of the KOTOR remake coming exclusively at launch to the PlayStation 5 was met to a very mixed reaction, largely due to that exclusivity. I will say it's weird seeing a game that was known for its Xbox release all those years ago being a timed PlayStation exclusive nowadays, but I think there is a difference between a company like Epic Games just throwing money at developers to make their games exclusive last minute versus a company like Sony actually funding the development of this remake. Aspire Media's KOTOR remake is being developed by a number of former Bioware veterans, with EA reportedly not involved at all, and the project seems to be years away. Personally, this was a huge, shocking, exciting announcement, and I know that for some they are concerned about the quality of this remake, especially following one of the writer's remarks about Star Wars in the original game. Sam Maggs is a former Bioware writer who did narrative design on Anthem, and based on older tweets was not a fan of the original KOTOR game, despite saying now it's an all-time favorite of hers. Maggs also has for years criticized Star Wars fans that were unhappy with The Last Jedi and Rey's character. Maggs' most famous moment, though, came in an interview in 2014 in which she criticized gamers for doing certain inappropriate things in Grand Theft Auto 5. So Maggs is a very progressive voice, and some gamers feel concerned about her involvement, but to be fair, I don't really think there should be much to worry about, especially since the remake story should not be getting touched that much, and Maggs also isn't even the lead writer on this project. More recently, with the project, there seems to be widespread debate about whether or not one of the core gameplay elements of the original should be removed, and that is the turn-based combat. To go more mainstream, many, including myself, believe Aspire will move away from that and go with real-time, and based on a Twitter poll I did recently, it seems quite a few of you agree. Regardless, at this point, the game has only just been announced and is still likely years away. Until we see some actual gameplay, I don't think there's good reason to jump to silly conclusions. One of the not-so-big surprises at last month's PlayStation showcase was the reveal trailer of Grand Theft Auto 5 Expanded and Enhanced, which looked rubbish. There's no way of getting around that. It looked uninspired and barely, if any at all, expanded and enhanced. As many have already noted, the trailer looks about the same to what it did 8 years ago. The biggest issue, though, is just how Rockstar continues to treat fans and consumers, and expecting them to dish out cash for an 8-year-old game with little to no noticeable improvements that many have already purchased numerous times. It would be one thing if this was completely free for everyone, but it's not. People are tired of Los Santos, and over the last few weeks, fans have been vocal about their unhappiness with the company's effort. Over on Rockstar's official YouTube channel, the expanded and enhanced trailer has 85% dislikes, with over 230,000 downvoting the video and really just trashing Rockstar in the comment section. On the PlayStation official channel, it gets a little bit worse. The trailer has around 250,000 dislikes, with 89% downvoting it. Some of the top comments include, "This game is like a prisoner on death row for 25 years. I remember this game, really enjoyed it on my PlayStation 3. At this point, fan-made mods have expanded and enhanced the game more than the actual developer. The only thing that has been expanded and enhanced is our disappointment," and it goes just on, just like that. To make matters worse, throughout this year, Rockstar's parent company Take-Two Interactive has filed what seems like dozens of lawsuits and legal threats against Grand Theft Auto 5 modders. See, the company did something very sneaky. Years ago, Rockstar and Take-Two went after the entire Grand Theft Auto 5 modding scene, targeting an extremely popular modding tool, OpenIV, and after enormous backlash, they backed down. It said that this was more so an overreach by Rockstar's parent company Take-Two, who made it clear over the years their disdain for the modding community because they cannot monetize it. Now, when Rockstar and Take-Two reversed their decision years ago to make Grand Theft Auto modding basically illegal, they also made some rules. It was basic stuff like don't touch Grand Theft Auto Online and stuff along those lines, which everybody was fine with. Now, here comes the problem. Very quietly in 2019, Rockstar updated their rules and added a very broad new one, that being that mods are not allowed to be making new games, stories, missions, or maps. Essentially, the rule allows Rockstar and Take-Two to go after just about anything. And in the last few months, that's exactly what has happened. Take-Two has gone after 15-year-old projects and really anything that has San Andreas, Liberty City, and Vice City in it. Original or inspired or new designed content, it does not matter. Take-Two has gone after it all. Modders have tried opening a dialogue with the company but have been basically ignored. The only thing that they have received is more and more DMCA takedowns. But I have to say, all of this makes a lot more sense now. For weeks there have been rumors of a Grand Theft Auto Trilogy remaster, and we're probably within hours or days of an announcement based on updates that were found made to the Rockstar launcher. And yeah, as I've been working on this video, Rockstar has officially announced the GTA Trilogy remaster, and interestingly, even this has gone down in a fashion that a lot of people are very mixed about, because the original GTA Trilogy has now been delisted completely from all of the stores, Steam, PlayStation, and so on and so forth, before we've even seen any footage of this remaster in action. And there's actually reports now saying that this is going to be maybe a $70 remaster. Obviously you get all 3 games, but just a very interesting business decision by Take-Two. So now with this announcement of the GTA Trilogy remaster behind us, and now fully understanding why Take-Two has gone after all of these mods these last few months, what's become clear to many is that Take-Two made a power move, and I guarantee when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes around, they will do their best to kill the rest of the modding scene. I would not be surprised to see Rockstar include some sort of role-playing elements or features in Grand Theft Auto 6 Online, which would be more than enough reason for Take-Two to kill off 5M, the popular multiplayer mod tool. In 2021, this has been the story with this company, and right now there's just a lot of gamers upset with the greed that they are seeing. Now, today's last story that I wanted to talk about is God of War Ragnarok, and some of the dumb controversy surrounding that upcoming game. Again, as most or everyone knows by now, Sony Santa Monica debuted the game's first real trailer during last month's PlayStation showcase, and while most of the reactions, including mine, was extreme excitement, there were some upset for a variety of reasons. For starters, many are pissed that Thor is fat despite the 2018 installment stating in dialogue that he was just that. Actually, Mimir, a character in the game, specifically calls him a fat dauber, and I guess people just ignored or forgot that. Then there's Angrboda, I probably said that wrong, one of the last of the Jotun, a mythical race of giants known to have various powers such as foresight and transformation. Angrboda in Norse mythology is eventually the wife of Loki, who is teased in the trailer, and there's been uproar over the character not being white. All I'll say on that topic is that there's a big difference between whatever Battlefield 5 was trying to do and this game that loosely follows Norse mythology. If we're talking about authenticity, there's no Kratos, there's no blue dwarf who talks like a Texan prospector, Mimir certainly didn't sound Scottish, and Loki certainly has been altered. And if you don't care or believe what I'm saying about this, God of War's story lead, the narrative director on God of War Ragnarok, pretty much said the same thing. He specifically said on Twitter saying, "Please show me in the edits where it says that all Jotun were lily white, let me save you the time, you can't, I've read them." Now, there's also been some people redesigning Angrboda to be white, and it's just really, I don't know what these people are doing. It's really cringe, and I just find all of this baffling. But lastly, and this seems to be a big one, is the accusation many have made against Sony Santa Monica that Ragnarok is not a true sequel. Some players have attacked the studio for reusing certain animations like getting into a boat, which all this tells me is that many people really don't understand how game development works. Not everything will be from scratch, and yes, there's a clear difference between the annual FIFA, Madden, and Call of Duty rubbish and this. A few animations is much different than whole sections of the game being copy and pasted. Games are difficult to make, and if you want entire new animations, that takes time and resources. Look at Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption 2 as a great example of how long that can take. Regardless, this reused animation criticism is just one example brought up by those unhappy with the sequel thus far. It seems to be the point that many are attempting to make is that Ragnarok is just glorified DLC with Sony Santa Monica reusing assets, animations, and environments to con players into spending $70 instead of the typical story DLC price of about $20. As absurd and as ignorant as that sounds, you would be surprised with how many truly believe that is the case. They come to this conclusion even after Sony Santa Monica has confirmed that this is the big finale to the Norse chapter, with what I assume Egypt likely coming next for this franchise. Anyway, what are your thoughts on God of War Ragnarok, the KOTOR remake, and Rockstar's never-ending thirst to milk the GTA 5 cow? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.